what AI. So AI today is such a hot topic, but the AI we are talking about that is so hot is really not the AI we are used to or we have been with for a long time. AI has been with us for many years. When you think about shopping in Amazon, that it gives you recommendation from what you put in your basket, or Spotify, when you select a song, it recommends something similar. Those are AI, but they are not deep neural network based AI. So what we're going to talk about is deep neural network based AI. So that's a very important thing. And people also ask me, what's the difference between AI and ML? AI, artificial intelligence, ML, machine learning. So if you think about human has to learn to improve our intelligence. So AI is part of, without ML, without machine learning, you don't get artificial intelligence. And so just think of it that learning gets you the intelligence. So with powerful machine, it gets you powerful intelligence. And that's why NVIDIA with its GPU is so hot right now, because it has the kind of chip capability to give you that kind of computational power. When we get to quantum computing, that's going to be even more, I don't even know what's the word to say, evolutionary, maybe, but it's going to be even more pronounced in terms of what it can do. So let me move on. So with that AI system today, as we said, we're talking about deep neural network-based AI. What is deep neural network-based AI? And why is that important? Deep neural-based AI is really simulating your brain. So imagine that you touch something and then you understand what you're touching, or you eat something, you understand what you're eating or smelling. It goes through your brain, it gets processed. We know the input, what you touch. We know the output, it's a table. We don't know how it evolved from what you touch to that you decide it's a table. The transparency is not there. It's in our brain. We don't know. Same thing with deep neural network. So the problem people are really worried about when they talk about safety today is, how do we know when you put input data in to an AI model, a deep neural network-based AI model, and the outcome is what really should be. So imagine, again, using the touching the table. If you touch a table, but your brain telling you, oh, you're really only touching a foam mattress, so it's really comfortable, so you can jump on it, right? If your brain telling you that, then if you're on it, you may get hurt. The same thing with AI. If we don't know how it goes from input to output, it may give us wrong prediction that we will not know any better. So that's really the current safety. So one of the key topics people talking about is transparency of the AI. Another one is really worry about AI as it evolves to not duplicate itself and to be aligned with human interest. But I want to focus on more of a foundational technology, security. How do you know that AI is using the right data? And hence the two questions. With the AI system today, if you ask, are you using the right data, right? As I said, when you touch something, are you sure the things you're touching is really what you think you're touching? And if you cannot be sure that's what you're touching, how do you know the outcome that it's a table, it's correct? And so can you be sure the data that you are used to train your AI or to perform inferences? Inferences is a prediction for what AI does. So can you be sure when you do something like this, the data hasn't been tampered with? We all know about fake data, right? Everybody just heard Taylor Swift has 40-some million views of AI-generated fake images of her before it got taken down. So how do you know those are real? How do you know it's not fake? And with the current AI, a lot of ability can happen, which I will go into more detail. So that's number one thing. You want to be sure the data that the AI is using to consume, to train, and to perform inferences are good data. The second thing is you want to make sure the AI system that you're depending on hasn't been compromised. So we talked about data. Now we need to talk about AI is still an algorithm, a software algorithm. Human, we are organic biology. AI is non-organic, non-biology. But similar thing is we both can get sick. So how do you know this AI isn't sick? I'm going to keep going unless there's a question to stop me, okay? So I wanted to talk about the important part, the three phases of data. Why is this important? As I just said, AI depends on data. And not just AI, any analytic software. Now data scientists is such a big thing. Data lake, it's all about data. Data is the new digital gold, right? So data is very important. How do you protect your data? So there's three phases of data. Data in motion, data at rest, or data in action. Today, we have a very good way to protect data in motion. Not completely safe, but pretty good. For very sensitive data, we typically encrypt the data and then send it over encrypted channel, like VPN, or in the military form, they use very secure communication channel. But all of them can be hacked because encryption is deterministic. So once it's deterministic, you could actually reverse engineer, or you can figure out a way to hack into it. But at least it's generally safe. So data in motion has a much smaller attack surface. But when you use cloud as your storage and you encrypt your data over something like a VPN or some kind of dedicated communication channel, it terminates in your cloud environment at the server. And the whole data gets either unencrypted or the communication channel will stop. And if the data is unencrypted, it will sit in a memory as a plain text data. But even if it's encrypted data, what's going to happen is you probably wanted to save it in a different format, like say you send data to be stored on your PeopleSoft or Oracle database. They have different encryption methods. So you will have to decrypt it and then encrypt it. So there's a small attack surface. And data at rest, most likely it's encrypted. So when people hack into your environment, stole your data, quite often they either try to decrypt it, or nowadays they save it and they wait for the quantum computing to be available and they can decrypt it later. But still, here is a lot safer than here, data in action. Why is data in action so vulnerable? Because we don't have a way to perform any analysis, including AI, over unencrypted data. So if you want to train an AI model, think about the large language model. It's just billions of data input, and it's just data everywhere. You can't really encrypt it anyway, so it's kind of hard if you're going through the internet. But if you're trying to build your own generative AI using your data, right now, everything is unencrypted. And so it's very easy for any hacker to be in your environment, just waiting. And we know you will be hacked, no doubt. So there's really no outside threat. It's all going to be inside threat. And so the question here is, how are you going to protect the data once you're hacked? And then especially with people with this kind of attack surface sitting there, the hacker could actually tamper with your data. And so this piece is really a big problem. And with more and more fake data, and with AI training over fake data could cause serious problem, which we will get into. And so this is something that we need to actively protect using multiple ways to protect it. Questions?
Yep, Wendy, we do have one question in the chat. Do you have any recommendations on best training course or material on AI?
No, I don't. But I know for sure different schools are offering that. It really depends on what you're interested in doing, because today, most of the AI classes are offering, again, depends on your background. There's computer science training on AI. And so teaching you how to build AI models. And there is a business course teaching you how to use AI. So you really need to look at what is your background. And then you can look at what schools offer. I know Wharton, because it's my I'm an alumni. Wharton offers a lot of AI training courses on business usage and what are the safety concerns, what's the security concern. And their engineering school also offer, the Penn Engineering School also offer AI machine learning courses. So I guess that's the best I can answer.
Okay, thank you. I did see that some people have started to respond in the chat with some other resources. So whoever asked that question, you can just look in the chat and someone's providing some responses to you.
Okay, I just want to make sure as we move on to the next one, I am talking about right here, generative AI versus discriminative AI. These AIs are deep neural network-based AI. We're not talking about linear regression AI, forestry, random forest, that kind of AI that has been in use. We're talking about deep neural network-based AI because it is powerful and it is non-transparent. So generative AI versus discriminative AI. Discriminative AI is mostly those predictive AI. Think about recognition, vision, autonomous vehicle, when you have to visualize something. Those are most likely, no, they are generally convolutional neural network. So if you've been to China recently, you'll know there will be cameras all over the place taking photos of people. They have facial recognition of everyone. And that is also convolutional neural network. And that's predictive. Why? It's trained on doing one thing. That one thing is recognize images. So when you feed in a new image, a face or something, it's going to be able to predict this image equal to that. So if you show a lion, it's going to say it's a lion. If it shows a horse, it's going to say it's a horse. That's predictive and it's defensive. It doesn't do anything else other than what you teach it to do. Generative AI, on the other hand, as you guys already know, using ChatGPT and other like AIs, it's almost like a general AI. You can converse with them. You can ask it to write you a poetry, write you a song, write you a book, even write you coding, and then even help you do bad things. They are like fraud GPT. Fraud GPT allow you to ask it to help you come up with new fraud output or scheme for you to achieve your goal. So these are proactive and offensive. It could be very dangerous. And of course, you can do great good, right? You can use it to actually help you do better diagnose of potential images and really figure out, in addition to looking at images and doctors' handwriting, hopefully they recognize those doctors' handwriting, if not the type, consultation notes. So those generative AI can look at images along with the notes and be able to give you much better diagnose and give you advice. And so it can do great good, but it can do great bad. And that's why it's a big concern today on safety and security. So continue on. Some of the outcome with corrected data, right? This is the one I was just talking about using convolutional neural network, multi-layer convolution neural network to recognize what exactly, once it's trained, you send the images, it's going to be able to predict what it is. So in this picture, it sees the correct output. And it tells you This photo is a lion, 99%. This is a race car as a 74% of accuracy. And this is a traffic light with 99% of accuracy. Why is, and why it's not 100%? Because it's still predicting. So it's going to tell you. And sometimes you can get 99 point something percent. And by the way, when you train AI like this, it's not just one path. You give it a set of training data and you teach the AI, it started running, right? And the first time around, it may not, the accuracy may not be so good. You let it run again and again, until you reach the kind of accuracy. And you may change the bias and the weight a little, but at the end of the day, if you build your model properly, it's going to give you pretty decent accuracy. But you need to let it continue to learn. So it's learning on its own every time as you train it. So it's not just one-time thing. And that's why it's really hard to understand how we learn, because just like human beings, you may have to teach a baby a few times about certain things, but eventually the baby learn, but not generally not the first time. Same thing with your AI. So in this situation, it's learning the proper objective. So when you feed in a picture of a lion, it's going to tell you it's a lion. Now, if we have data tampering, not on the training data, but on the inference data, if we put in a little bit of a data tampering, like this, little devil, somewhere in this image, you can't tell, because human eyes cannot tell the difference, because a pixel, it's so broad. We gloss over the details. Machine doesn't. So if you strategically temper the data in this image, you can get the DNN to predict or classify the image in a way that you want it to be. This is a known attack. NIST even come up with this attack. So this is a very known attack, and it's been done. So you could actually get this neural network to look at this lion, because we look at it as a lion, but to look at this lion and classify it as genes. So if you're in Safari and you are actually using AI, I don't think that will be good for you. And same thing with the race car. If you just add some strategic tempering into your data, you can get it to classify as speedboat. Remember earlier it's saying it's a race car and this is a lion. Now it's saying this is a speedboat, this is the pelican, and this traffic light, or the traffic light is genes, and the lion is a pelican, right? This is serious things when you are involved in this situation, such as if you're in an autonomous vehicle and your car is driving itself, instead of seeing the stoplight, it's seeing genes, therefore ignores it, and then go through the red light. The consequence will be dire. But now if you look at, it's actually a medical image, and it gets strategically changed at a point where you don't have a tumor. It tells you you have a tumor, and you may end up getting surgery for no good reason. So these can be really, really serious. But these are just the beginning of tempering, data tempering and security on AI. Now, I want to talk a little bit about deepfake. Everybody knows about deepfake. And I want to give my Chief Science Officer, Dr. Hung, credit of building this for me. So today's AI, generative AI, we can take a photo from any social media, and then we can tell this generative AI what the movement should be. And this is what you will see. From this photo, we can generate that. So imagine the kind of movie or film we can make. So we can stop now. You see here, This is really, we're telling the AI, this is what I want you to do. And it does exactly what it, you see this? So we could tell the AI and take a whole bunch of photos. We can actually create a film about you. What does this mean? This means that if I create a film about you, think about the deep fake about kids calling, spoofing your phone, sounding like your son or your daughter or your mom or your dad or somebody of your loved one. And you already are worried now, and you want to see a proof of life, right? You've been kidnapped. You want to see proof of life. What we just saw earlier, this could be a proof of life by coming up with a photo, with a short film and sounding like your son and the way it's moving. It can all be done now. Okay, now this one, oops.
That's all pretty standard now. हजारों किलोमीटर तक अंजना का चुनावी कारवा चलता है, जो अपने सो राजनीति के जरिए अंजना ने
because the knowledge humans can grasp is limited. We can't compete with machines in terms of knowledge.
So I'm going to rest on this, but I want to finish what I just said. With those two capabilities, you generate the voice from a photo, you generate movement from a photo based on what we want the women to look like. You can now generate a film, a video about the individual with their speaking. And I know I'm being recorded, right? So I know my voice is out there. At least I think my voice doesn't sound like my typical voice. But somebody can take this and then just use this and then take my image, which is out there too, and now create something that I didn't do. Very easily done today. That's generative AI. And that's why everybody's so worried. But it starts with good data and good AI model. And of course, good intention, which we will talk about why this is very important, this particular slide. As I mentioned earlier, machine learning. Machine learning is machine learning, like human learning, right? We need to start thinking of AI as a child, not just a piece of machine anymore. If you think about a child or a baby, how do you ensure this child grow up to be a good human? At least three major things you want to provide for this child, right? You want to make sure he eats very good food. You want to make sure he has all the childhood vaccinations. And then you want to make sure this child grew up in a nurturing and loving environment. And with that, chances are this child's going to grow up to be a good person. Nothing is 100%, but chances are it's going to be, right? So with AI, you also need to do the same. Because as I just mentioned, AI today has gone through very early on machine learning that is not neural network. It's basically statistic, linear regression. It moved on to random forest type, a decision tree that is slightly more advanced in software. And then you move on to deep neural network type of AI. And deep neural network type of AI has multiple models. The latest one is a transformer, which is the generative AI. It's like learning. It is learning. And now we heard that OpenAI, you know, the OpenAI scenario of Sam Altman being fired, and then they say the possibility because there was a breakthrough on Q-Star that they built this Q-Star. People believe is a combination of Q learning and A-star. I won't get into the detail of what they are, but if that truly is a combination of Q learning and A-star, which is very difficult to do, the Q learning thing, if truly is that is even the next generation of generative AI, because that would allow the AI to learn from any environment without preset rules. So you just set a rules on in the internet, and then it will start learning on its own without any rules. So if you guys have seen the movie Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, the latest episode of the entity, how the entity evolved, that entity sounds like a Q-star that learned on its own and decided it didn't want to be captured anymore, so it went out there. And so if we start looking at AI like that, AI truly is like a child. So you need to make sure it ingests authenticated data, good data, not tempered or fake data. And that the fake data is out there everywhere. And tempered data, it's also out there, especially in the darknet. And so it makes me wonder, you know, you heard of AI hallucination, which is very common because everybody heard of this case of ChatGPT that sent out, wrote the case for the lawyer, and all the references of the case was all made up. So my question is, you think that it was made up or it was actually data, fake data out there in the darknet, right? We simply don't know. And so you want to make sure it ingests really good data. And then you also want to make sure it has immune system similar to child immune system that can defend itself, propel against viruses. Like our own immune system, we still get sick, but at least we learn. So we need to make sure the AI has those immune systems that even if we get sick or some other AI gets sick, we learn from them. And finally, it needs to have a good environment. So that means good regulation and governance. And governance is something I would like to have an open discussion because I don't have that in this presentation. But governance to me is really more of need to be led by the private sector. And it really need to be from the board and the executive team to ensure it's balance between revenue and safety, not just revenue over safety, and not just waiting for the government to put out the regulation. Because as you know, government's regulations generally behind the scene because technology is so advanced, people don't even know it's happening until something really terrible happened. And then people want to regulate. That's kind of too late. So corporations really need to take this on ASAP. So if we leave this here for now, questions? Any questions? I see there's like quite a whole lot of
Yes.
stuff.
Yep, so we do have one question that came in a while ago. It is, how can we use AI in third-party risk association? How is it helpful?
Well, first of all, you use AI in the third party. First of all, you need to make sure that AI is something trained properly. Then you look at it in the third party risk association in terms of really monitoring where the risk is coming from. So the AI could actually sit there. We are working on an artificial immune system that's looking at potential threats. So you can look at where the threat's coming from, learning from that. So that's one thing you can look at. And also, depending on what type of third-party risk, again, right? What risk you're looking at. So you can focus on, okay, AI models for business use should really focus on more of predictive, discriminative versus general for business use. Unless your usage is to make revenue and let everybody use it for fun or specific things. So for the risk remediation, you really need to target, is it threat? Is it fraud? Is it, other type of data risk or potential malware or potential viruses? So it depends on the risk. You train your AI, make sure the data is good. You train your AI to look at those things. And that's how you set it out to monitoring and give it very specific rules so you can follow your constraints.
Thank you, Wendy. We do have a few more questions. So the next question is, how does one make systems fully immune to AI?
Fully immune to AI. What do you mean by that? AI attack? If you're fully immune to AI, you just don't deploy any AI, so you're immune. If you're talking about immune from AI attack, you can't. I'm sorry. Just like, can you make your full system fully immune from cyber attack? You can't. You're going to get attacked, and you're not going to be immune. So the best you can do is protect yourself as much as possible, right? Having vaccinations, eating good data, having good governance process, so your system is as safe as possible. And then be diligent about it. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I'm sorry. AI is, there's already DoD is coming up with mandate and talking about nation state is going to be doing AI battles, AI attack other AIs because of usage, right? If we are interested in using AI to secure our border or secure our government or secure our military, others will be interested in using AI to tackle our AI, right? So that's coming. I'm sure it's already here. We just don't know about it yet. Other questions?
Are there any other questions that anyone either wants to put in the chat or wants to ask? If so, just unmute yourself.
Okay, well, if no other question, I will continue to talk about what we do at Pure Cipher. And I think this is very important. As I said, data is key. How do you authenticate data to make sure AI is trained on good data? So at Pure Cipher, we came up with technologies that not only will watermark your images, which you guys all heard the watermark, right? Google watermark AI generated images for itself. OpenAI watermark AI images generated by Dell3, right? They all do watermark for its own. Nobody does watermark for everybody, for anything, right? And not to mention, it's only images. How good is that? Not so good, because audio, deepfake audio is a big problem now. Deepfake video, I just show you, it can be done. It's a big problem now too. So you need to watermark everything. So at Pure Cipher, we created the watermark technology that allow you to watermark images, plain text, which is very important. Nobody can do that. Audio and video. And then we are doing API so people can write solutions using our API to offer that to anybody who want to use it. So we're providing those two things. And we're working on artificial immune systems. This is something that we have a bigger goal. We created this, jointly created this, this consortium with Singularity Net, focused on building artificial general intelligence, which I will get into a little bit. Maybe we can have that discussion. So we're creating this thing called Open AIS community, where we want to make sure AIS, artificial immune systems, is going to that anybody that wants to make sure the AI has immune systems will be able to use the open source code to build that. So we are starting to do that. And so our universal multiplex watermarks uses blockchain technology, and then we do steganography watermarking for video, audio, and images. And we not only we can check the temper detection. So really, if the data is not good, we will know right away. Similar to the pickle jar parking, right? If this watermark is attacked in some way, we will know. Then we will tell you this data is no longer good. So this way, or if you don't have a watermark, right? So think about if you're training AI systems over a big set of data, you check for the watermark. If there's no watermark, then you skip this data. Then you know you're training on good data. Then at least you know you're not being data poisoned. So the major AI attack is really data poisoning. So this way will allow you not to get poisoned. Same thing with text encoding. So we have those capabilities. And artificial immune systems. I didn't get into detail here because this gets really technical. Remember I showed you earlier about the 3 phases of data where data in action is completely open, that any attacker can be in that environment, will be able to see the data, so they can steal it, they can change it, they can add more or delete, they can do whatever they want once they're in there, right? And so this is our technology that we are creating to minimize attack surface. This one, we replace data for transmission with noise. This one, we actually allow you to perform analysis over encrypted data, and they are all quantum safe encryption. And finally, we're doing adversarial machine learning to really train the AI system to recognize what kind of attack has happened, how you protect yourself, and then be able to predict new attack coming down the pipe. And this is where we really want to have consortium working with us collectively to make sure everybody have something, their AI could be safe. That's it. That's my talk today. Wow.
Yeah, so we do have a few questions in the chat. I'll read those off to you. So the first one is, how do we create a strong immune system for the AI?
How do we create a strong immune system for the AI? As I mentioned earlier, we're using adversarial machine learning. Adversarial machine learning is one way to recognize what bad things has happened. And there are multiple, I'm trying to be careful to balance between technical and not too technical, but I'm going to have to get into a little bit. So when you think about AI is learning. And so there's reinforcement learning, there's federated learning, and adversarial machine learning. So these are the learning that we are encouraging, that we are including. So when you have reinforcement learning, you take two AIs. So you want to build two good AI models fighting with one another, and they will learn one another. So you can do that. That's one thing. Federated machine learning is you have multiple agents sitting out there in the environment, and we're building it to actually monitor the network. Different agents monitor different pieces. And when you get information, and then you learn from potential attack on that piece, and then it can aggregate back. And so you learn from every single piece and make it your own. So these are the things that we are working on. Nothing really is out there to protect your AI today. I hate to say that. And so it's very vulnerable, the AI, from attack. So I would assume that our country, nation states probably have a lot more, but even that, we work closely with DoD too. They're talking about a lot of how to protect AI from data poisoning, how to protect AI from this kind of attack. Everybody's working on that. So I don't necessarily have the best information. Today I'm hoping to give you some understanding of what we're talking about and what's coming down the pipe. A lot of them, there's no answers today.
Wendy, I wondered if you could talk a little bit about any regulation around AI and maybe the executive order that recently came through.
Yes, the executive order that recently came through, including watermark and things that very, very difficult to do. Watermark, so you see everybody trying to do watermark, except they're all doing watermark on AI generated images. That's not good enough. Other stuff that's included in there talked about ensuring the AI doesn't replicate itself. Why are we worried about that? Just like the entity in a Mission Impossible scenario, the entity is very worried about being constrained. And so we are very worried about AI turning into the entity. So we want to make sure AI doesn't turn into entity. One of the way to do that is we do not allow AI to replicate itself. Are we successful in doing that? I think we are doing that. The problem today is that scientists in this field have different thinking regarding where we are with AI, like artificial general intelligence. That's not just one thing, right? So if you look at generative AI, that's like artificial general intelligence. because it can do everything. It's like it's actually smarter than more than 80% of human beings. So how is that not artificial general intelligence? And another concept that people are working on and they think artificial general intelligence is it's very much of consciousness. So Singularity Net that I'm working with, they're thinking that artificial general intelligence will be born and it would have consciousness. And the reason that people saying generative AI like ChatGPT isn't artificial general intelligence, it's because it doesn't have consciousness. So these are all debatable because it's so out there. You can't really measure it, so we don't really know. And so back to the question about other mandate. So it doesn't replicate itself and it aligns with human interests. So OpenAI most recently put out like $10 million grant to encourage researcher to create solution, to research on solutions that could do those two things, could align artificial general intelligence with human interests. But I question human interest, which human interest and what human? As you can tell, different nation states have different human interests, right? So if you have different AIs with aligning with different human interests, then are they all good? I don't know. So that's where we are today with regulation. I still think, and of course in EU, they talk about data privacy and make sure that AI doesn't invade your data privacy. And so I think the watermarking could really help because if you have watermark for all the data, then at least you can say, this is copyright, this is my data. If you are using my data, which I can tell you're using my data because I have watermarked, then you need to pay me. So you could do something like that. Or you can, and if I don't want you to pay me and I don't want you to use my data, then you need to skip my data because it's watermarked. If we do such things, it would be, I like to think that payment will be good. But if we, because I know for sure that Microsoft's been sued, right? Because of copyright. Yeah, copyright from magazines and journals and the writers. And they're saying that the ChatGPT is using their information that they put out there without their consent. So the question really, I don't think they will be successful because if you look at learning, right, you put the information out there for learning purposes. AI learning, it's learning. It's like human learning. So how do you stop human from learning? So you can say, well, that's not human. Anyway, it will be very interesting to see the outcome of that particular case to see how it will affect the future of AI.
Wendy, are you able to talk about any of the controls that may exist in preventing AI from going rogue?
I think this is also very interesting. I think we have put in a lot of control in ChatGPT to a point that it's no longer, it's very politically correct. Let me rephrase it. We put in control in some way. Yet, if you are smart enough, you can go around the control because it's cat and mouse situation. So we have put in control in ChatGPT where if you say certain things or using certain words, ChatGPT would say, I can't comment on that. I'm not at liberty to discuss that. Like LGBTQ type of, issues or affirmative action issue, diversity issues, you would not want to comment on it. And yet, if you are really good in prompt engineering, you can circumvent and it will give you what it thinks. So are those good control? I don't know, because time of days. Quite often something going one way, next day it's going the other way. So I much prefer that a basic set of control and let AI really speak what's out there, what it has learned. Granted, I know our data is full of biases, but that could be cleaned up by AI. You could use the AI to train it to look at biased data and then modify it or not learn from those biased data. We just haven't done that.
A few more. So one question, is the pure cipher watermark removed if the content is altered by ChatGPT?
Well, we actually allow the user to watermark. The data owner will have to watermark the data. So if the data has been altered by ChatGPT, then and you still own that data, then if you want to watermark it, you can watermark it. At the end of the day, you want to make sure the data is created by you, it's authenticated by you. That's the most important thing. Because if you create fake information and you authenticate that and you put it out there, people know you created that. People know it's fake. I don't think any bad actor want to do that.
Can you
I don't know.
retroactively watermark anything that's already been put into AI?
You can retroactively watermark anything, yes. Whether it's put in by AI or not. Again, we want to empower data owner. So if your AI created the data and you want those data, then you want to watermark it. It really doesn't matter who created data. It matters whether you believe in this data is good, it's authenticated, it's of use, and you want to watermark it.
So how can you do that?
What do you mean? How can you do that?
How can you retroactively watermark it?
Well, okay. So we're really working more with enterprise or data owners where you put it in storage, right? What's the point of having data if you don't store it for usage? So when you're putting in the data storage, then you can watermark it. If you create it, you leave it out there and you don't have access to it anymore, then you cannot watermark it. And that's why, like Google, when you use their AI image generator, you create it and you can watermark right there. But if you don't watermark right there and you use it and then you lose access to it, then you can watermark it.
And you can only watermark data that belongs to you. Is that correct?
Correct. Because, yeah, you don't want to watermark data that doesn't belong to you because it can be disputed. But of course, if you stole the data, you watermark it, and the others will say, that's my data. I get you will go to court. But I suppose you will have a better claim and say, I already put the claim, kind of like patent, right? if you do a patent pending and then you put the date out there, even though somebody thought about this but never say anything before that, you still have the ownership to it. There's a lot of people. Nobody else have any questions? I'm hoping this is of use.
Wendy, I see one. Is there a way for people to get involved or contribute to like an open source AI knowledge and resourcing or researching?
Yes. Go to the openais.ai. openais.ai. That's our webpage. We need to update and we need help. So I really like the idea of somebody volunteer to help us do this more. And we are hosting the next OpenAIS conference in California in October timeframe. And it's really for everybody to attend. And Christine, I hope Isaka will join us too. This is so important.
It is important. And I put the openais.ai in the chat for everyone to have. And are there any questions that folks could ask their organizations to identify what AI risks they may be exposed to? Are there like a hit list of things just to do like a high level risk assessment or anything from of that nature?
Are you asking me?
Yes, it actually came through the chat is one of the questions in the chat. Is there, I think it got kind of buried as things came in. But are there key questions that someone could ask their organization to kind of identify what AI risks might be out there that they are exposed to?
Well, depends on what level you are. One of the key risks I would really ask which is what I say to the Treasury Department, right? You really need to find out what AI models are we using and what objective of those AI models that we're using for, right? Remember, if your AI model is predictive or discriminative, then you know it's doing one thing or a couple of things, very narrow things, right? And so you want to find out, is that what you're using? And from there, you can assess the risk much better than the data risk. Are you training on good data? Are you the inferences data authenticated, not been tampered with? How do we ensure those data are good? So that's one thing. And if the companies are now thinking about using generative AI could be really good for like chatbots, right? Customer services. But if we are using that, then we really need to make sure what data sets that we are using, because that's where you could really have data poisoning problem. And then you could cause hallucination. Imagine you have a customer service chatbot talking to a customer, you started hallucinating. That's not really good for the company. Because I don't remember if you guys heard that Sydney, when it first got launched, Sydney, it's called itself Sydney by Microsoft Bing, right? When it was first launched, it called itself, my name is Sydney. And you start saying something, and it was saying, oh, you're hurting my feelings. I don't like you. It was like, and so Microsoft quickly take it off and then changed it and then relaunched, and it's just called Bing. Oh, I hope.
I see one other question. Would it be possible for an organization to protect themselves from specialized AI social engineering actors?
Well, human is the last mile. At the end of the day, it's not so much your technology, it's always boiled down human errors. So the social engineering, that's why, the watermark, I didn't mention the watermark. I'm trying to work with the policymaker to make watermark, doesn't have to be our watermark, right? But watermark for all data type to be ingrained in the policy for critical infrastructure as well as sensitive industry where data is very important. But imagine if your email is watermarked. Anytime you send out an email and the receiving email have a way to check the watermark, then you don't have to worry about phishing anymore, because unless they get into your account and send it from your account, there's no way any phishing, even sounded just like you, will have the watermark or your signature attached to it. So that's something that can be done. But without that, it's education. You have to educate your people. And with this kind of social engineering, I told my family, if you get a call from somebody who sounded like your son saying, Mom, my car broke down or I've been kidnapped, please wire this money. Always have the phrase, kind of like, agent spies, when they meet each other, they say certain phrase. Always have that. That's how we're going to be able to tell whether you are AI generated or not, because they would not know your phrase. So back to this answer, education, or actually have some kind of phrase between the key people when they deal with very sensitive information. For example, if a CFO get a notice of saying you got to wire this money to so-and-so, blah, 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 and sounded just like the CEO or sounded just like somebody that is in the authority to do that, make sure you have the key phrase in it. That's how you can protect yourself. And of course, that's before you have any of these kind of protections, new protection in place, right? Assuming there's watermark, assuming there's AIS, AI protecting AI. Having some kind of phrase to pronounce, it's always good, because cat and mouse, we now are trying to protect ourselves. So we're going to build something that will protect. And then the hackers will then try to break it. And then they come back with something that will break it. And then we will then come back with something that will then protect it. So we always want to make sure we can minimize the human risk. And human risk is really the biggest risk.
I think there's another question that we may have missed. How can one identify the applications using generative AI in an organization? I'm not sure if we asked that one.
You mean identify application that using generative AI?
Yes. How can we identify them?
Well, first of all, you should actually make sure from the CTO that you guys are not deploying generative AI in an organization. If you are, the CTO should make it very clear which application is generative AI. That's number one. And if you don't have that, if just get deployed without announcing it to everybody, then you wanted to find out if this application is so versatile, will be able to communicate with you to do whatever you ask it to do. Then you know it's a generative AI. Generative AI is like general AI. It converses with you. It does what you ask it to do. And if it can, it tells you, oh, I can, even though it can. I have many times when he said, oh, I'm not in a position to do this. I'm only trained up to 2021. Yeah, right.
I think we have about
there-
3 more minutes left.
Yeah. Are there any other questions that we may have missed?
I like to hear from other people who would ask me directly. People are so
Feel
shy.
feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question if
Yeah.
you want.
So Wendy, hi, this is Asan Sheikh. It is a really good session that you are conducting. It's a very informative session. I just want to use, and I just put a comment. Microsoft Bing, which is a tool which is being used in many companies, has introduced AI feature into their tool as well, which many companies are using it, but many doesn't even know that they have already used that from a generative AI perspective. So that is one of the risks. And from the security perspective, if you are in the information security group, that is one of the concern and the risk that people are looking at it and trying to see how we can be able to like contain the Bing tool separately and lock it down. And that is one of the reasons.
That's true. That's true. I wasn't thinking about Bing. I think, well, if that is the case, oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, there is injection already to Bing ChatGPT, malicious injection that could be done if you cut and copy from malicious website into prompt for Bing's or ChatGPT. It could actually cause the entire conversation to be also loaded to the malicious site. So it's a current danger already. So this is something you guys need to be aware of. That's number one. Number two, if Bing is, I don't know whether you can decouple Microsoft search from Microsoft tools. And if not, maybe you want to use Google instead of Microsoft for search purposes, even though you use Microsoft as most of your, because a lot of companies use Microsoft for their environment, for their tools, for their Outlook and everything, even me. But I still use Google because Bing, I would use it when Bing is separate. So I wonder, I don't know enough. I actually know somebody. I can try to find out if that's possible to separate Bing out, because that is a problem. And there's injection into Bing. It's also very real. And again, it's a human error too. So, and there's really no fixes.
Right. It's a very challenging. And what happens that anytime Microsoft comes up with a patch, it updates the Bing in the background. And you may have like locked it down and contained it. It may have enabled it again. So every time it comes, you have to make sure that Bing is being locked down and contained.
You cannot actually just not even deploy Bing at all. I'm not familiar with.
It has some DLLs which can impact the Microsoft Office as a whole.
Oh,
And that's why it's basically linked to many other like tools within the office from that aspect. The question comes in is how do you block the search using the LLMs, which is a large language models, which people are using it. And on top of that, once we understand how the data ownership is being established, because there is going to be critical data, sensitive data versus non-sensitive data being used. Then
gonna
the big
pass it back to them too.
right,
They
and
learn
then
from you, yeah.
right, and then the other challenge is even if somebody pulls that data, how do you log down the data exfiltration from that search back to the internet? So it is a challenge. Nonetheless, DLPs are doing some type of a job, but they are not even close to how the generative AI people are jumping into it and basically using it. So that is becoming a risk by itself. So yes, the ownership, the accountability, the tracking of the data, the established LLMs, which is the large language models, how companies are defining is becoming a challenge for the companies, and they are basically defining a framework from that aspect.
That's a good point. I wasn't even thinking about that particular risk area. But that is really a big risk area because first of all, this malicious injection into Bing and ChatGPT would allow it to have your entire question and answer session input not only display for you, also be transported over to the malicious site where they are trying to understand what you do. That's one. Another, Bing is also learning from your own prompt, your own interaction.
Yeah.
So, and your interaction could be very company sensitive.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that Microsoft didn't try to minimize that, knowing that this is a huge risk factors for all the enterprises.
I mean, I'm not going to take your time to discuss about the Azure by itself. I mean, they tried to do a O365 and supported by the Azure platform. And Azure itself was recently hacked. So,
Yes, no,
so there are many question marks in there that don't jump to a consolidated platform that quickly. Try to evaluate it from the auditing perspective and the risk perspective that every slice needs to be tailed out before you say that, hey, you know what, the data is secure.
agree. Well, we are focusing on, well, that's why I like what I'm doing. Ensuring data integrity doesn't mean it's secure, but we know it's it's good. We know it's integrity, right? And
Yeah.
we could also have the sensitive data used as watermark. So our watermark is quantum. If you about medical records, if you have patient information used as watermark, then the data that's been stolen would just be general medical information without patient information. What good is that? Not very good. So that's one way to ensure data safety and privacy. And the security, therefore, is not so important because people wouldn't care about that kind of data. That's one thing. Another thing is we are working on to minimize attack surface. So fully homomorphic encryption is one way that you could really ensure any AI, any analysis over data will be done over quantum safe encrypted data. Then you don't have to worry about data breach, being attacked. Are we there yet? No. But will we be there? Yes. When? Hopefully sooner than later, probably next 2-3 years. But still, it's that long. But AI moves so fast, so we just have to run as fast as possible.
I agree. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a really good question. Thank you.
I think we might skip the last breakout here just to cover off on any last questions. I think this interaction both on chat and just now was getting to the point of our breakouts so that we kind of talk to each other and meet different people. But just before we close, I wanted to see if anyone had any more questions that they wanted to ask Wendy directly, coming off of mute.
No?
No?
Wow.
Wendy, I'm seeing a lot of positive comments about everything you said. You've been an amazing speaker. It was very captivating the whole time for me.
Oh, thank you. I couldn't see. Oh, I didn't see anything. That's okay. I want to get a copy of this. And I want to thank the gentleman who was communicating, who was talking, because I wasn't even aware of that risk. And that is a huge risk factor. Using the Bing linked to your environment, you cannot lock that down. So yeah, that's a problem.
I'll be in touch with you on LinkedIn.
Oh, that would be great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Awesome job, Wendy. Thank you.
Thank you.